Hi, I'm Brooke, and today I'm going to be talking to Tiffany, who's going to share with us her carnivore journey. Hi, Tiffany. How are you?
Hi, Brooke. I'm doing great. Happy to talk to you.
Thank you again for taking the time out and talking to all of us about what it's been like for you. And I hear that you've lost a considerable amount of weight along this journey of low carb.
Yes, I actually started gaining weight in my 20s because of a whole lot of combination of factors. But my highest weight was 260 pounds. And so I was obese for over 2 decades, from my 20s until I was in my mid 40s. And in 2015, when I was 45, I decided that at that point, it wasn't even about losing weight, it was about changing my health. And so um, I knew I had to change my diet. So from 2015 through 2019, I lost 130 pounds.
Wow, that's a lot. That's amazing success. What was your diet like before you needed to change it, or before you made that decision? What were you eating?
Well, I grew up eating a healthy version of the standard American diet, vegetables, some meat. But as I became an adult, I added in a lot more grains. I started eating, I was never a vegetarian, but I started eating a lot more meatless meals, a lot of lower fat meals. And my I developed a sugar addiction, and so I was eating a lot of, besides, the standard quote healthy food, I was eating a lot of just junk food, donuts, rolls, breads, candy, cookies, all of that. So I would say, if I had to characterize my diet, I would say it was a typical recommended healthy diet plus all the junk on top.
Some extra carbs on top.
Yeah, lots of extra carbs on top.
And I remember that phase when there were fat-free versions of cookies and things like that. So, but it was plenty of carbs and sugar, but it just didn't have any fat, which was crazy.
And
Um,
I kind of came of age as an adult in the 90s. And so I bought into the lower fat meals and the, meatless meals a few times a week. And so, yeah, that did not do me any favors.
yeah. Well, so good for you. So then you maybe switched to dropped grains or something first. Did you go to keto or paleo first on your journey?
Yes. From 2015 to 2019, I cut out more and more of the junk. And I was eating mostly vegetables, still lots of fruit. I cut out processed sugar, but I was still eating a lot of natural sugars. And then I would still have my sugar binges occasionally that we can talk about later. But in fall of 2018, I really took a serious look at what paleo was, and discovered intermittent fasting at the same time. And then, so from the fall of 2018 into summer of 2019, I really lost the bulk of my weight. I was in 2008, fall of 2018, I was at 205, and I lost 75 pounds then to get down to 130 by June of 2019, using a strict, very low carb version of paleo and intermittent fasting. And it was a low carb because I ever since I started my health journey in 2015, I'd kept a food diary. And so I was aware of what kinds of foods didn't work well for me. And so I just started eliminating and eliminating and eliminating. And I weighed frequently, not because I'm not really tied to the scale, but I use it as a data point. And if I get on the scale and I'm 5 pounds up from the day before, that tells me, I know that's not 5 pounds of fat, but I ate something that my body is reacting to. And so I knew over the years that I functioned best eating very few carbs.
So you really did some deep dive research into how your body works. And it sounds like you were able to get a hold of insulin, that, that hormone, and be able to control it instead of having it control you with the intermittent fasting and understanding that.
Yes, I think the fasting gave my body the reset that it needed so I could hear the signals that it was trying to send me. And that worked very well. I hate the word maintenance because it has a connotation that you can somehow just rest. And I feel like our health is a lifelong journey. So we're never really in maintenance, but I was in maintenance in the summer of 2019, but I still had a lot of things that I needed to work through. I was still bloating sometimes, so I knew that there was something that was still not working well for me. I still dealt with my sugar cravings. Those were mostly dormant, but I could at least keep them at bay. And things were going along pretty smoothly until the spring, of course, when everything hit this spring, and there's nowhere to get away from stress when you're quarantined in a house with lots of people. And so that was when I really had to face the sugar issue.
And at that point, were you doing sort of a meat-based keto version, you think, or?
I still had some things that I needed to work on. I wanted to work on body composition because, even though losing 130 pounds relatively slowly, I still had some excess skin and some muscle that needed toning. And so between Christmas and New Year's last year, I read Dr. Baker's The Carnivore Diet book. And so that was the key that told me, okay, I don't know if carnivore is for me, but I at least know that it's a safe option. So I decided to join in last January for the World Carnivore Month of 2020. Great. And that was when I went to a primarily meat-based diet.
And what did you discover? What did you discover that month when you did that?
Well, I discovered that month that I felt okay before, but eating a meat-based diet, I felt amazing. Like, I know that word is kind of overused, but there was just a general sense of well-being and happiness and peace and calm. And if somebody would have told me that before I ate that way myself, I would have said, oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
But something unexpected started to happen, and it's why I kind of vacillated between straight carnivore and going back to a keto-ish version of paleo all spring, is that it felt like I was gaining weight from eating carnivore. Now, in the end, what I have discovered over the last several months is that I was not actually gaining weight. My weight was redistributing because my hormones have been out of whack since I was a teenager. Yeah. I'd always carried my weight in my belly. I've never had any kind of hips to speak of. And as I ate my carnivore diet, and generally I need a higher fat version of the carnivore diet for me personally, but that weight was shifting and my belly was flattening and my waist was getting smaller. And for the first time ever in my entire life, I actually have hip-shaped hips.
It's amazing, that kind of curvilicious thing that happens for women.
I know.
It's true. It's so true. It's like
sometimes I still look in the mirror and it's like, wait, there's a curve there. Those are hips. But since June, I have literally lost 2 inches from my hips, but 3.5 inches from my waist. So my actual shape was changing. So in January, when I thought I was gaining weight, it was really just that I could feel the weight in a different place.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. Do you have some kind of physical regimen? Do you lift weights or yoga or some kind of physical thing that you do?
Yes, but I've only added it in recently. I did not exercise the entire time that I was losing weight. I should say way back before I started my health journey in 2015, I tried to exercise, but it was kind of self-defeating because my body couldn't tolerate that because I was just getting through the day was all I could do. And I didn't exercise at all from 2015 until just a few months ago. And honestly, the reason that I exercise now is that I have excess energy and my body says that I need to move.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the keys with carnivore is that if you're going to eat this nutrient dense food, you need to use it. And
Exactly.
you need to use it on this weight that actually is really good for you.
At work, I improvise a standing desk for myself, so I almost never sit at work. I've started doing push-ups and squats. I'm a teacher, and so I do my push-ups and squats in between as in between classes. So right now I do about 40 or 50 of those each day. And then I also about 6 weeks ago decided to buckle down and start working on a dream that I had decades ago, which was to run a marathon. So
Wow.
I was never a runner before, but I am becoming a runner.
Wow, that's great. So what are you doing? How much are you running and when do you run?
I run right now. I set myself a schedule. I run 3 times a week. During school, I've mostly been running in the mornings before I leave for work. I really enjoy running in the sun though. So when we're on weekends or on holidays, like right now, I run about mid-morning, but I prefer running when I'm fasted. So it's usually like 18 to 19 hours after I have last eaten.
Do you run with a buddy or do you run just by yourself?
Right now, I'm not running long distances. The longest that I've gone is right about 3 miles, and I run by myself. I've actually enjoyed the time with my own head and get into my own thoughts. And actually, I've been using a training app, but sometimes I get my best results when I just go out and run for the fun of it, and I'm not tracking anything, but I know that I'm actually pushing myself harder than the app pushes me. So
good for you. That's such a wonderful, good feeling thrill to run and to run fasted and to run in the early part of the day and to feel that energy return throughout the whole day.
yes.
And
I do have an experienced friend who is coaching me, but she lives a couple thousand miles away. So not running with me, just giving me tips and telling me what to do.
well, good for you that you're picking up running and that your inflammation is low enough that it's not, that sounds like your recovery is good with the recent running.
Well, and actually I have kind of a fun story that has to do with exercise. I have 6 grandsons, and yesterday my daughter and I were just had a girls' afternoon, and we had one of the 3-year-old with us, and we were in and out of the shops. And of course, the 3-year-old was getting bored, and so I didn't think anything of it. I just popped him up on my shoulders and started, entertaining him. And there was a mirror nearby, so I was doing squats and kind of jumping up to see himself jump in the mirror. And apparently, the people around me thought that grandmas aren't supposed to be able to do that.
Rad. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what do you eat now in a typical day?
So I've been straight carnivore since June, and overall, I eat any animal products, so including meat, dairy, and eggs. but dairy is just a special occasion food for me right now, just because I don't do well with it. If I eat dairy, then I start to get bloated again. And if I keep eating it, my face starts to break out. And so it's a special occasion food for me.
Do you drink coffee?
I do. I do drink coffee. I actually feel better without it. I feel like the caffeine from the coffee interferes with the energy from the ketones, and I've experienced that personally. I think that coffee is beneficial to some people. However, right now, I'm not quite ready to give that up because I feel like my carb addiction is it's dormant, it's under control, but I want to get that a little bit further into the background before I decide to eliminate the coffee.
Well, sounds like a good plan. And so your typical day, you would wake up and maybe have coffee and...
So my typical day, I do have coffee. I wait until about mid-morning to drink it because I want to take advantage of the natural cortisol spike in the morning. And so I drink coffee mid-afternoon, mid-morning. And then I eat 2 meals. So my lunch schedule at school is at 1:30. So I eat lunch at 1:30. And my preferred food right now is beef. I just like beef. And right now I'm kind of on a beef kick. And so I'm eating it. I do eat chicken and fish and pork and other things. But those are sides for me right now. I try to have at least some form of beef for every meal, just because that's how I feel the best.
Yeah. So you maybe have some hamburger or something at lunch.
Usually what I do is whatever we've eaten for supper the night before, I intentionally make extra, and then I just take it and eat it cold at school. So sometimes it's hamburger. Sometimes if we have steak, I just pre-slice it. So it's pre-sliced. Or if it's a roast, I'll do the same thing. I'll pre-slice it. I do bring along extra butter and some fresh Wagyu fat sometimes, because if the meat that I'm eating is really lean, I have learned that that's not going to do well for me. So I don't always add extra fat to my meat, but I do bring it along in case I feel like I need it.
So you have some extra fat from the night before. Is that what you were saying? You said no. You said a word. Did you say ragu?
Wagyu beef.
Oh, okay. So you like Wagyu beef fat is tasty.
Yes.
You have
so I actually have a local source where I can buy it fresh, and so I just have an extra. I keep it in the freezer, and I just have an extra jar that I bring. I bring the either the Wagyu fat or butter, either one, along. And if I need extra fat, then I eat some of that with my meat, but I don't always.
Nice. Perfect. And then at home you have a dinner, sounds like.
Yes. So my husband and I usually eat dinner. Since I eat it at 1:30 in the afternoon, I try to eat dinner by about between 6:30 and 7:30. And he, as of last July, is also carnivore. So we don't always eat the same things. Sometimes we feel like different foods, and both of us think it's important to eat according to what our bodies are asking for.
I'm so happy for you both that you're both doing a carnivore diet together. That's so great for a couple.
It does make things a lot easier because our only discussion really is what kind of meat we're going to have.
Yeah. What kind of beef? Yeah.
Yeah.
So very good. So you're finding, can you share with us some of the other kinds of non-weight bearing improvements that you've
experienced? Yes. Well, I've never been a morning person, and I still wouldn't call myself a morning person because I prefer to have just nice, quiet mornings. But for several weeks now, I wake up before my alarm clock, and my alarm goes off at 5. And so I wake up sometime between 4:30 and 5 every morning. And that's regardless of what time I go to bed. I actually need less sleep now than I used to need. I have tons of energy throughout the day. Like I said, I created a standing desk just because my legs needed to move throughout the day. I have some age spots that the paleo and eliminating grains and eliminating sugar and the fasting did not make them start to go away. But after a few months of being on the strict carnivore, I've noticed that those are starting to fade. So I have age spots that are fading. I think the most important victory for me, though, is getting my addiction under control, because I really struggled with that for decades. It started back when I was a teenager. I would binge eat sugar, and that just got worse as I went through my adult years. And when I was on paleo and intermittent fasting, it was mostly under control, simply because I didn't have as many of the triggers. I wasn't eating as many carbs, but I hadn't addressed the psychological aspect of it yet. That really hit during this spring when we were in lockdown and there was nowhere, there were no distractions, no way to be busy, and all of the stress just piled on. So I started working on the psychological aspect of the addiction, but it wasn't until I went straight carnivore in the summer, and then after a few months of having no carbs at all, that I can really say that the addiction is in remission and it's not an issue anymore.
That's great.
Now, I still have to be, as with any addiction, I think I will always have to be on guard, especially for those psychological triggers. But I have learned what they are. But really, going to the carnivore diet was the physical piece of the puzzle that allowed me to finally just kick it to the curb and be healed from it.
Oh, good for you, Tiffany.
So I would say that is an even greater win than losing the 130 pounds.
That's great. That's great. Do you use fasting besides intermittent fasting? Have you played around with has that interested you at all?
Before I started carnivore, I did some alternate day fasting. I've done some 48-hour fasts. The longest fast that I've done is 62 hours. But I have discovered that since a few months after being on pure carnivore, I really need to eat 2 meals a day. So I'm eating the same amount of food, but I really need to eat it in 2 separate meals of the day in a 5 or 6 hour window. And I can get by longer fasting for a day or two, but it's going to come back and I'm just going to be completely wiped out. So for my own metabolism, I'm eating 2 meals every single day now.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds like you figured it out. Sounds great. What about mood? Well, you said mood. You talked about mood, how you're feeling great.
Yes, I'm feeling great, feeling calm. We have mental health issues in my family. And since I never experienced any extreme symptoms, I was never clinically diagnosed. I was never on any medication. I kind of felt like, okay, well, I can deal with this. I can handle that. But there was always a low grade anxiety in the background that was threaded through my days. And then in times of stress, it would become more predominant, and then it would go away again. But then after a few months of being straight carnivore, I realized how peaceful my moods were. And I realized that the anxiety was completely gone, and I hadn't felt it for a long time. And then one day it was really brought home because I ate something that turned out to be a trigger for my anxiety. And it just hit me like I ran into a brick wall. And I was just dumbfounded, and I couldn't believe that I used to live like that on a daily basis.
Oh, great learning. I'm curious, what was it?
Strangely enough, it was black tea.
Wow.
And I used to be a big tea drinker.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is a fluke. And I know it wasn't the caffeine because I consume plenty of caffeine with coffee. But my mom is my sounding board, and I kind of talked it through with her, and I said, okay, maybe this was a fluke. I'm going to try it again. And so the next day, I had some more, and it hit me again about half an hour after I drank the tea, and it came back again. And so that told me, okay, that was it right there.
Wow. Good call, and good. Thanks for sharing that. It might help a lot of people, actually. Yeah. Tea is always, it's always been considered so benign.
Yeah. Well, not well. You know what? Plants are benign too. We're supposed to eat our spinach and our carrots and our broccoli and our cauliflower, right?
Benign and virtuous plants.
Yeah.
Those are full of virtue. The more the better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful chemists that plants are. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that I decided to just go ahead and quit all fruits and all vegetables altogether was I found myself actually binging on the blueberries on blueberries because I felt like they were a cheat food that I could get away with.
Right.
And I'm very self-reflective. And so as soon as I realized that that was what I was doing, that was a red flag to myself that, okay, you feel like this is cheating. And so you probably need to deal with this.
Yeah, it sounds like you're right on it. You're not going to let yourself get away with anything.
No. So yes, I've been extremely strict with myself, and I've tried to be 100% honest with myself. I believe 100% that everybody is unique. For example, my husband eats very little beef. He eats more pork and chicken, for example. Some people can eat carbs and vegetables and fruit in moderation and be fine. But I've always been 100% honest with myself and very strict with myself. And so that's why I've gotten where I am.
I think that's great. And, you're healing something that you said, for decades. You were doing this for decades, more of a disordered eating. So, things take time to heal.
Exactly. Yes. I can remember the closet eating starting, I think it must have been 11 or 12 even.
Yeah. So good for you. Thanks, Tiffany. Sounds like you're doing a great job, and I'm glad that you and your spouse are sharing this together and that you're getting better and better. And you have all those children and grandchildren you can share with them. So it's
we have six boys, 6 grandsons. So.
Congratulations.
Well, I really like to tell my story and share my story with people because I'm 50 and it really makes me sad, almost to the point of angry, that the common notion is that women our age are supposed to just passively accept the fact that we start gaining weight and start having trouble with our weight. And I think that is not true. Now, as a culture, are we unhealthy? So most of us do start gaining weight? Yes. But I don't think that that's the way our biology was meant to work.
Well, not at all. And as a culture, people are heavy and overweight even in their 20s or teens right now, and even some children. So that's not it at all, is it? Well, Thank you. Thank you for your healing and taking care of yourself and being so straight with yourself, and for sharing with us and sharing with your family and everyone else. You know, appreciate it.
Well, yes, and thank you, and thank you for reaching out about doing the interview, because I love talking about not what I have done per se, but I just love talking about the potential for changes for people, and helping people figure out what they need to do to be able to take charge of their own story.
You're awesome. You're a great teacher. I'm glad you're in the education field. That makes perfect sense. Thank you again, Tiffany.
All right, thank you.